Where is heaven or where is hell? It is a question that almost all of us have grown up with, even if we don't consciously sit and think about it every day. And if you really observe people, not just casually, but actually pay attention to how they make decisions, you will notice something very, very interesting. A lot of what we do quietly is influenced by this idea that after we die, we will either be rewarded or punished. So now, this life slowly turns into this performance, not always consciously but subtly. You start doing things not because they come naturally to you, but because somewhere in your mind you have this belief that this is going to count. You pray, you go to churches, you go to temples, mosques, you follow rituals, and all of this is fine in itself. But the real question is, what is the intention behind it? Because if the intention is fear or reward, then are you really living or are you just performing for this desire of being in heaven and something that you've never even seen? And I want you to sit with this and not react to it immediately, not agree or disagree instantly. Just listen. Because if you look at it honestly, you will see while all of this external performance is happening, internally there is often very little awareness. A person can pray every single day and still judge someone who earns less than them, still carry jealousy, anger, ego, resentment, and can still hate someone based on their caste, religion, gender, or status. So, then what exactly is happening here? On one side, there is devotion being displayed very visibly, and on the other side, there is lack of basic empathy. And then we still assume that this combination somehow leads us to heaven, but does that even make sense if you think about it calmly? Because if there is any kind of intelligence, any god, or any kind of universal consciousness, whatever you want to call it, do you really think it values rituals more than the way you treat another human being, another living being? I mean, across traditions, across cultures, across time, one thing keeps repeating on itself in different forms, which is that empathy, compassion, and kindness are at the core of everything, not as an optional add on, but as the foundation. And yet, somehow we have reversed the priority. We have made the external so much more important than the internal. If you actually go back and look at what these texts are saying, all these religious texts, you will notice that they are not talking about geography. They are not talking about a physical location, which is hell or heaven. They are talking about psychology and consciousness. For example, in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, verse 21, it says there are three gates that lead to hell, which are lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to degradation of the soul. Now, just pause here and really understand what is being said. It is not describing a physical place. It is not saying that after you die, you will be taken somewhere underground, somewhere where there is fire and demons, or you will be boiled, or this and that. It is simply describing qualities within you: lust, anger, and greed. These are not destinations, these are states of being. These are the frequencies a human being vibrates at, which are lower frequencies. And when someone is consumed by these, they are already restless, already dissatisfied, already suffering. So, in a very real sense, these are the experiences of hell. Not later, now, in the present moment. And the same inward pointing exists in other traditions as well. In Bible, it says, the kingdom of the God is within you. Again, this is not pointing to a location in the sky. It is not saying that heaven is somewhere you will go to if you follow a certain checklist correctly, if you follow certain rituals correctly. It is simply saying that the state of heaven, the experience of peace, connection, alignment is already within you. The real question is whether you are in touch with it or not. Because, frankly, two people can live in the exact same external circumstances and have completely different internal experiences. Understand like this: one can be peaceful, grounded, and content, and the other can be anxious, reactive, and constantly dissatisfied. Same world, different realities. So then, instead of asking, where is heaven? Maybe you should be asking, what does heaven feel like? And similarly, what does hell even feel like? Because when you frame it like that, it becomes more real, more human, and more immediate. Think about your own life. On days when you're constantly overthinking, when nothing feels enough, when you're irritated, complaining, comparing, judging, how does it make you feel? It doesn't feel good, certainly. It feels heavy, suffocating, uncomfortable. Your own mind becomes a place you don't want to sit in. And if that state continues, that is suffering. That is hell. That is how hell feels like. Not some dramatic external punishment or location, but a constant internal unrest. And now, think of the opposite. Moments where you feel light, where you're not carrying unnecessary tension, where you can appreciate things without immediately comparing them, what you will get in return, where you feel connected to yourselves, to others, to the present moment. That state feels peaceful, expansive, almost effortless, and that is what heaven feels like. Again, not a place, but a way of being. To make it even more simpler, there is you and your friend. Both of you pray regularly, both of you all follow rituals, both of you all do everything that looks right from the outside. But your friend is genuinely kind, empathetic, and grounded, while you, on the other hand, is somebody who's judgmental, harsh, and ego driven. Outwardly, you both are doing the same things. However, internally, it is a completely different case. So now, if heaven and hell are purely based on actions, both should end up in the same place, right? But that does not sit right, because the real difference lies in who is being, not just what they're doing. And this is where things get a little more uncomfortable, because it shifts the responsibility back to you. It means that you cannot hide behind all these rituals and labels, right? You cannot just go to a temple or a mosque or a church and suddenly all your sins are forgiven just because you visited that place. No, that does not happen. Stop being delusional. It means that you now actually have to look at your inner state, because if you are filled with jealousy, anger, insecurity, constant dissatisfaction, then no matter what you do externally, your experience of life will still feel like hell. And if you are grounded, aware, empathetic, and open, then even simple moments can feel like heaven. There is also another layer to this that we don't usually question. If you are doing good things only because you believe that it will get you to heaven, then do you really think it's still about you? Because now this is transaction. You are not being kind because you understand kindness or you're genuinely empathetic. You are being kind because you expect something in return. There is a certain expectation there. And that is very different from genuine compassion. Genuine compassion does not come from fear of punishment or desire for reward. It comes from understanding, from awareness, from recognizing that every other person is experiencing life just as deeply and intensely as you are. So maybe this whole idea needs to be looked at differently. Maybe heaven and hell are not some sort of future destinations that you need to secure. Maybe they're your present realities that are constantly creating. Because if you look at it honestly, nobody actually knows what happens after death. That is unknown. But this, right now, your thoughts, your emotions, your way of being, that is something that you are experiencing right now in real time. And if that's the case, then the question shifts. It is no longer what will happen to me after I die. It becomes, how am I living right now? So you can actually live more consciously in the present moment. And present is all that there is. Am I at peace or am I constantly disturbed? Am I being kind or am I just reactive? Am I aware or am I functioning on autopilot? Because the answer to these questions define your experiences far more directly than any belief about afterlife. And I am not saying that you have to reject your beliefs. You are totally allowed to believe that there is some physical heaven or hell if that resonates with you. That is not the point here. The point is to not ignore what is happening within you while focusing only on what might happen later. Because if heaven and hell are states of being, then they are not waiting for you somewhere out there. They are being created by you, within you, every single day on this very earth, in the way you think, the way you respond, and the way you treat others. So instead of performing for the unknown future, maybe it is worth asking, can I create a better internal state right now in this given moment? Can I be a little more aware, a little more empathetic, a little more honest with myself? Because in the end, it is not about reaching heaven after life. It is about not living in hell while you're still alive on this earth. And with that, I will see you in the next video.